We be seated, please. The president is coming. We be seated. Hello, people at the back. Could you be seated, please? The president is coming. Oh, okay, right. No. Good afternoon, Zimbabwean diaspora. We welcome you to the meeting between the Zimbabwean diaspora and His Excellency, the President of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa. Before we start the proceedings, could we have Pastor Tembo, please, to give us a prayer? Thank you very much. If we can pray. Pastor Tembo, please. Is he here? Ngatina mate. Kuna Mwari wa masimba ose baba vedu vari kudenga kumusoro. Iye ni Mwari mtsvene wakatendeka. Aisitsaona kunge tiri pano kuronga kwenyu. Kuona kwenyu iye ni Mwari makatungamirira vana venyu veZimbabwe vavasanganisa nomukuru wavo, mukuru wehurumende, mukuru wenyika. Tinoda kuzvirumbidza nokuti Mwari izvi zvose zvaitika nokuda nokugona kwenyu. Mazviti haini Mwari wokudenga, Mwari wenyasha huru. Vana ava pavakauya vazhinji vachipinda madiaspora vane ma-expectations. Vana vanoteverera zvinhu zvinoitika kuZimbabwe. Who wish everything every day kuti zvinoitika kuZimbabwe zvive zvinoita impact us positively. Tinoda kukuvongai Mwari wokudenga, tichikumikidza nyika yeZimbabwe mukati moruoko rwenyu. Tichikumikidza President Emmerson Mnangagwa navose vanotungamirira namakurukota avo, nevose vanotungamirira industry namadepartments egovernment, kusvika kumwana mudiki wazvarwa nhasi, vose tinovaisa mukati moruoko rwenyu kuti zvinoitwa zvose izvi zviitwe nenzira inoitwa kuti imi Mwari mugokudzwa. Tinoda kukumikidza proceedings dziri pano nhasi masikati ano mukati mamaoko enyu kuti zvinhu zvose zvinoitwa zvikudze imi Mwari, imi muridzi wavanhu. Takumbira zvose nomuzita raJesu. Amen. Amen. Your Excellency, want to start with the singing of a national anthem. If we can stand up, please, and have the national anthem. The national anthem, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Can we get seated, please? Your Excellency, the President of Zimbabwe, Comrade Mnangagwa, the Honorable Minister, ambassadors here present, senior government officials, and the Zimbabwean diaspora, thank you very much. I wish to welcome you to this day and this special occasion when you are going to be there's going to be an interactive conversation between yourselves and the head of state and the president of Zimbabwe. I'm not going to be taking much of anybody's time, but just to welcome you and to say we hope this is going to be the first of many conversations as and whenever the president visits. It has always been his intention and his wish to engage as widely as possible with the Zimbabwean diaspora. We are mindful of the very significant contribution the Zimbabwean diaspora makes to development effort in the country. And also it is the wish and hope that this conversation is going to deepen the conversation between the diaspora, not only with the president here, but also with the government. The president has got a platform which you can engage in, and therefore, without much ado, Honorable His Excellency the President, may I wish to call upon the Minister of Finance, Professor Duly, to introduce the President. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Master Mnangagwa. Your Excellency, Comrade Mnangagwa, fellow Zimbabweans, fellow diasporans, welcome to this event and thank you for making yourselves available. And also thank some of you for organizing this and making sure that His Excellency can interact with you and share with you a Zimbabwe vision that we've all bought into and we're ready to move Zimbabwe forward. His Excellency is well known to you. He's an illustrious freedom fighter for the independence of Zimbabwe, and he's become an illustrious leader in a very short period of time as he tries to relaunch Zimbabwe into the global community and regional community through his Vision 2030, which seeks to transform Zimbabwe into a middle-income country by year 2030 through the pillars of strong governance, inclusive growth, investment in infrastructure, and establishing macroeconomic stability. On that note, may I invite you, Your Excellency, to make his remarks and speak to the fellow Zimbabweans. Thank you.
nations, Comrade Ambassador Shala, our ambassador at Washington, Ambassador Mnangagwa, the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Professor Duly, the Governor of the Zimbabwe, Dr. John Mnangagwa, with us here, other colleagues who have accompanied me, and yourselves, Zimbabweans who are here in the diaspora. I greet you. We come here as the new dispensation at home, forming the Second Republic of Zimbabwe, led by myself. I'll briefly narrate how I happened to be here. I'm sure the majority of you, if not all of you, know what has transpired back home, which resulted in me terminating my being Goda Jumper, coming home on the 24th of November, become president of the Republic of Zimbabwe. Upon my inauguration as the president of Zimbabwe, of course, the brief history preceding that occasion was the stepping down by my predecessor, former President Mugabe, when both the party and parliament had taken moves to take action with regard to the party by expelling 5 or 6 members of the supreme body of the ruling party then, ZANU-PF. You know the comrades who were expelled, principally the former First Lady, Johnson, and others. And of course, there was the impeachment process which had commenced in Parliament, and that culminated in the stepping down of the former president. And the meeting of Central Committee of ruling party then decided to reinstate me as the vice president of the party. But upon stepping down, in terms of our constitution, it is desired that within 48 hours of the office of the president becoming vacant, that the ruling party with the majority in parliament must nominate somebody from among themselves to take the office. And I was then nominated, and I was sworn in on 24th. Subsequent to that, a Congress of extraordinary Congress of ZANU-PF had been convened by the former president 2 weeks later, where I was then elected president of ZANU-PF. But upon taking over the office of president of the Republic of Zimbabwe, we, as a team, pronounced that Zimbabwe is now open for business. And we meant it, we mean it, and we shall continue to mean it. To accompany that mantra, we have made various economic reforms, and we continue to do so, in order to attract investment into our country. We've also opened up democratic political space in the country. As a result of those 2 moves, from the economic front, I had to move around my peers in SADC, most SADC leaders, I visited them, and then outside SADC, I visited China. And then the AU summit in Ethiopia. and the subsequent one in Kigali, Rwanda. And thereafter, there was the FOCAC, China Africa FOCAC meeting in Beijing a few weeks ago, which I attended. And in all these platforms, including, of course, Davos in January, where we met the global capital players at Davos, or in Davos, and put our case there that we're open for business, we would want to be competitive, we would want to embrace the international community, we want to engage and re-engage with the international community. Engage those who were not engaged with us before, re-engage with those who were disengaged with us before. And I'm glad to say we are receiving positive indicators in most world capitals across the world. Back home, as you're fully aware, every 5 years we submit ourselves to seek a new mandate to govern. So I did proclaim for general election for the 3rd of July this year. Of course, as I went around countries, I met most of our Zimbabweans in diaspora who insisted they would want to have opportunity to vote at home. Unfortunately, I agree with them that we didn't have the logistics to facilitate that wish. So our elections were premised on a platform of non-violence, peace, unity, love for our country. The first stage I took was that all political leaders, it was necessary, I announced, we come together and commit ourselves to non-violence in the process of campaigning. But I realized that though I was the president, I was equal to every other leader of a political party when it comes to the issue of the electoral process. So I could not follow that one. I then decided that perhaps we need a cleric to preside over that meeting. At the time, I thought we had only something like 9 to 11 political parties in the country. As was in the past, we used to have 4 to 5 political parties participating in any plebiscite. But when I asked the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission as to the number of political parties to come to the table for us to commit ourselves to non-violence, it turned out we were now in excess of 80 political parties. So the arrangements were not adequate for that number. When I postponed, the number increased to 133 political parties. Then we decided that it was not necessary for us as political parties to pledge by ourselves. We then used the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission, which we had commissioned, to do the exercise where every single political party had to commit itself to non-violence, peaceful campaign. That was done, and the majority, in fact, substantially, most of the political parties signed, including our party, ZANU-PF. We then, for the first time around, had a very peaceful campaign, and every single political party had the opportunity to exercise their democratic right to campaign and seek support from our people, internally or externally. So that was achieved. We then had our elections on the 3rd of July, which again were conducted peacefully. 2 days later, post to the election voting day, there was a regrettable incident that took place, violence, which resulted in 6 of our citizens dying. As a consequence of that, I had 2 choices: to have an internal investigation as to circumstances which led to that happening. But I believe that if we had an internal investigation, very few people would believe the results of such an investigation conducted ourselves. So I decided to have an external commission of inquiry. I think I'm aware now, the day before, on the day I left for New York, I had to swear in 7 commissioners that morning before we left. This included, as chairman, the former president of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Mnangagwa, Kalema Mnangagwa, as chairperson, and second is the former Chief Secretary, Commonwealth Secretary, Chief Nyok, something else, from Nigeria. Emeka Anyoko. Well, yeah. Then the third one is QC from the UK. Jackson is a distinguished barrister. Then the fourth is again a distinguished son of Africa, retired General Davis Mnangagwa, something like that, from Tanzania. Then 3, these are 4, there are 7, 4 from outside Zimbabwe. The 3 are from Zimbabwe. 2 are ladies. Professor Sharit Manyiruke, Professor of Political Science at the University of Zimbabwe, and Nyemba Mary or something? Okay, Wimbai Nyemba, former president of the Law Society of Zimbabwe. And last but not least, my colleague, contesting president, Professor Manduku, again, Professor of Law. That's the team. And we believe that such team composed of highly respected persons, they have started to work and will obviously publish their report, and the government will move thereafter. Having said that, Zimbabwe, for the last 2 decades, has been an isolated island country, which resulted in most of you leaving the country because of the collapse of the economy. But it is not true that all of you left because of that reason. Some may have left seeking education. Some may have left because there was a little crime they committed. But at the end of the day, you are here. The whole Zimbabwe will not look into how you find yourselves here. That's not an issue. What is important is I am talking to Zimbabwean citizens outside Zimbabwe. And I have no doubt that you've gained a lot of international exposure, acquired a lot of skills that you could not have acquired back home. We have a collapsing economy, and I'm happy. In fact, looking back, Prof, I think it was good. He also left. I have no doubt that the good side of what happened is that we now have a body of skilled Zimbabweans residing outside. And with our current plans for modernizing, industrializing our country, mechanizing our country, reforming our country, growing our economy, we have to draw from this reservoir of skills from our people abroad. I would also like to say on the outset that upon inauguration, the first country which sent in an envoy to congratulate the new administration was the UK. within 45 or so minutes, 40 minutes of my inauguration, Theresa May sent their minister, Laurie Stewart. Yes, yes. Laurie Stewart came to see me when I was inaugurated and said, I'm a number from Theresa May. What would you want the UK to do in terms of assisting? I said, I have no cabinet. I have no ideas of moving forward. Can you stay away for 2 months? Then come. Meanwhile, I'll have 1, formed my cabinet, 2, formed my strategy is to move forward and work out my priorities to again grow the economy. And indeed, within 2 months, again, I had Mrs. Bolden, the lady, I'm seeing her tomorrow again. She came, and then after that, several other envoys came. So this was now a change. There has been a rapport between Zimbabwe and another kingdom. We are now talking, we have escalated our relations from officials to ministerial level. Very soon, perhaps, to go beyond ministerial level. This is what I always say, that there's something peculiar about the British. In 1979, when Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister of the UK, we were at the thick of our armed struggle in Rhodesia then, and she became Prime Minister. She was the architect of the Lancaster House Constitution that brought about the cessation of hostilities and bring about the Lancaster House Constitution. That's a woman. And then after that, several other men came and spoiled the relations. Until this time around, when May came in, another woman, things are... So, we are developing good relations with Britain. And also, we also have an envoy from Germany. Select again. He sent men to come and say Germany is now willing to resuscitate lines of credit which have been cancelled for the last 20 years with us. And Minister of Finance, Professor Nube, to follow up on that one, I'm sure it's very good. I'm also meeting the Belgian Prime Minister and so on. I think it's the same. The indications are the same across the board. Here, Washington. It's not really predictable, but the indications are not as strongly bad as before. I have met several groups of Congress people who have come from the United States of America who came with negative briefing, but by the time they came back, they were almost our ambassadors. Come and talk back about how good Zimbabwe is. So again, I believe that very soon, our relations with the USA administration is going to drastically improve. Having stated that background, I'd like to say that my administration, with my people, these include, I have only one minister, and the governor and the officials who are here, is a servant leadership. We are committed to be a servant leadership. A listening leadership, not a commanding leadership. That's a fundamental change that is there. We must, wherever we are, preach peace, unity, and love. And our national flag and our national anthem. We must unite our people. We must accept divergent views among ourselves. That is important. The best views should take the day. And we see no problem with that currently as we move on. We, however, have a task to revive our economy. let me assure you that we are where we are as a result of a decision which we took on the land reform program. Be clear, I am not regretting that we took back our land. And the land reform is irrevocable. We'll move forward.
Well done. Thank you.
Even the British accept now that that issue is dead. We are discussing with mutual respect to move forward. And now, I did an interview when I came here. There was a very tough lady who interviewed me. Yeah, that's the name. She says, I am old wine in a new bottle. But what is important, no one eats the bottle. So I'm happy that I'm a new wine because people want the wine. Our approach also back home is that we have model of approach the various subsectors of the economy. Agriculture, mining, tourism, infrastructure development, ICT, mining, and so on. We have different models which we are going to apply. Fiscal imbalance is the problem which these two young people will have to deal with and correct. I have faith in them, but as you succeed, that's the condition. So, also in terms of our constitution, there's the issue of devolution in our constitution. That is to say, our constitution provides that we should devolve part of central government power to the provinces. And we're working on a policy where some powers of central government are going to be exercised at the provincial level, so that each province back home in Zimbabwe should develop an economic development plan for the province on the basis of resources that are found in that particular province to contribute to national GDP, so that we now know which province is doing what GDP, what growth are they achieving, separately and collectively. That is critically important, and that will help my Minister of Finance as to focus as to what is happening. Rather than in the past, when we looked at these issues globally without specific allocation as to how areas are progressing. With regard to specifically to agriculture, we already have a model where in the past our agriculture was based on the support by the public sector, the fiscus. Now we've moved away from that. Yes, we have the hand of the fiscus to some extent, but the private sector has come on board financing our agriculture. We are now safe in the area of grain food security. And we have now extended, just within 2 seasons, we've been able, I was still vice president then when I introduced command agriculture. Many of the people, especially you in the West, when I do not hear the word command, they think about sovereignty. No, these people come onto that program voluntarily, and it's very successful. We believe that with climate change, there are times when Zimbabwe may be visited by drought. And in that event, then you will not have enough grain for the country. But we have developed another model, which are collaborating with Spain and Brazil to have enough water bodies in Zimbabwe with the irrigation infrastructure and with a number of hectares under irrigation to guarantee us the grain we want for the year, plus 500,000 strategic reserve plus surplus. Whether there's drought or there's no drought, we are moving on. And then as a result of the success of these models, we are introducing similar models to cover other crops in that field. In the area of mining, we are having an intensification of mining productivity, broadening of the range of minerals mined, such as lithium, cobalt, methane, and also energy in that area. In the past, we had indigenization. You are fully aware. Under indigenization, my brother, if you land at the airport with 100 million, when off the steps, 1 million becomes ours. That's not fair. So we've removed that one now. You can come and establish your business competitively. It's of course wise for you to look for partners, but it's up to you. Except in the area of diamonds and the platinum, we are going to pronounce ourselves on the diamond policy when we go back home. We just set up a cabinet. There's only set once to introduce us because we didn't know each other. So we only met once before we came, not to know each other. Because I appointed a cabinet from CV without knowing the person. So when you go back, we should be able to resolve the question of platinum and diamonds. In the manufacturing sector, most of the manufacturing sector entities were below capacity utilization, 20, sometimes below 20. Now I'm told by the governor, the majority of factories in that sector are now above 60% utilization. The constraint which is there is the availability of hard currency to retool their factories and manufacturing so that they can be competitive. In the tourism sector, we commissioned the Victoria Falls International Airport. It can now take on board any aircraft of any size. And as a result of that, we have a growth now indicative of growth in incoming tourists in our country. We also have introduced special economic zones, both based on commodity as well as geographically based. The difference is that initially we had said we selected Harare, Bulawayo, and Vic Falls as special economic zones, but that is on the basis of geography. But we also have specific commodities which cannot be shifted to where we have said this is a special economic zone. If you are talking about iron, it's not in Victoria Falls, it's not in Harare, it's not in Bulawayo. It's in other parts of the country. So we also now have specific commodity-related, specific special economic zones. This becomes flexible. Now with regard to infrastructure development, road, rail, airports, and ICT infrastructure, there is a vast potential of business in that area. We have something like 4,000 kilometers internally, which require either widening or dualization in the country. And we are opening these bids for both domestic investment as well as international capital coming to invest in infrastructure. We also have, in the area of railways, internal network, construction of internal network of railways in Zimbabwe, as well as 2 lines which will leave Zimbabwe to the north of Beira and leave Zimbabwe south of Maputo. Because Durban has become very congested, and during our summit, SADC summit in Namibia, with my colleagues in SADC, we were able to sit down, myself, Botswana, President of Botswana, the new President of Botswana, Masisi, President of South Africa, Ramaphosa, President of Mozambique, Yusuf, and myself, 4 of us. We have agreed on these schemes. So when we go back, I will have my Minister of Finance, Minister of Transport, to work out how this will be done. I also should mention that there is we heard about the Kazungura Bridge, which was constructed in order, because the bridge at Victoria Falls, that bridge is not safe anymore. So there was a bridge agreed to some 10, 12 years ago between Zimbabwe, Botswana, and Zambia, three. Yes, 3 countries. But it then happened that the president in Zambia, the president in Zimbabwe, the president in Botswana did not have chemistry between them. So Zimbabwe was then left out. And Botswana and Zambia went ahead to construct this bridge. Instead of the bridge being straightforward at 600 meters, it had to bend. It's almost a kilometer now. But in 7 minutes, we resolved the chemistry. Zimbabwe is now back on board. So we're happy with that one. This is in relation to connectivity within SADC. We are happy that we are receiving support across the board. And then we have an issue of housing, water, and the sanitation management in the country. With regard to sanitation, as a result of the recent outbreak of cholera in Zimbabwe, we now have come to understand. I was with Charamba, I was with me. We are now understand that the system is over 60 years old, more than 60 years old, and all the pipes have come to waste. Sewage pipes and water pipes leak and inter-exchange quantities or contents. This is resulted in the cholera which we are having. So immediately when this happened, they immediately chipped in as government some money. I don't know how much they chipped in as government to fight the cholera. The first front fight is to stop the cholera. The second, which is also both immediate and medium, is to make sure the entire system is taken out and a new system is put in. We understand this morning the report was saying about 60 million is required, 63 or 63 million is required, and I have no doubt we have capacity to provide that. But not only that, we also are having tremendous support internally from the private sector and from outside. We are receiving tremendous support to fight this cholera. I remember that the day the cholera was announced, broken out, our minister, as a new minister, also Minister of Health, a Zimbabwean young man, Strive, phoned me at night and offered $10 million to support the fight. I felt very proud. He's the heart back home. You see, many others have done the same, buying drugs and so on. Chris was just telling me that he has some friends he met today here who are likely to do the same. But also, we have realized that the need to empower our women and our youth. With regard to women, we formed the Women's Bank, which is funded by government and run by women. But I saw 2 men, I don't know what they want to do. It's intended to be run by women. No collateral. I was persuaded to say women are honest. They will always return their loans and so on. So, the conditions for women to access loans very liberalized, no collateral. But another bank, the Youth Empowerment Bank, they are a bit there. There is a bit tight. I understand the youth cannot be trusted to the same extent. But again, we funded the bank. We continue to do so. So that we empower the women, we empower the youth. We know that there's lots of unemployment, but there's lots of talent among our young people, our young generation. And they lack resources, they lack capital. to implement their plans. So we have these institutions we have set up so that they can be facilitated to do so. Going forward, corruption. Pasi nayo. We will fight corruption. I have said this from day one, and I will continue to say this. And we are going to do so. We are going to fight corruption. And I have no doubt that if our people realize that it is not safe to commit acts of crime, our people are hard working, they will indeed respond to the call. That's my view. And I have no doubt that those who have talent under the environment which we are creating, let those who have talent be rewarded for their talent. But of course, as government, we continue to make sure that there are others in society who may be marginalized. Government must make sure it has safety nets created to make sure those also are provided for. Again, what comes to mind is a case of education. We must move towards where we have free primary education. We must have already have free medical care for kids up to the age of 5. It should be free. We have also introduced free cancer screening. Introduced to a limited extent maternity. It's free. We are still looking to more and more issues which we can take on board as government. But indeed, every Zimbabwean should have access to primary health care. And then also, we have the issue of electricity. RIA, yeah. Good. RIA. Yeah. We also have RIA, which we are going to support very much, so that electricity is distributed in the countryside. We are talking with an American company from California. You know, in the past, if electricity energy is from thermal, the thermal plant must be where coal is. Then you transmit it by transmission. Say if it is in Wange, that's where the coal is, and electricity is wanted in Chipinge. You build transmission lines from Wange to Chipinge to carry, even if it is 50 megawatts, to carry it there. And if you want it in electricity thermal power, in Wange, you want electricity Binga, you put another transmission line, so another transmission from Wange to Binga. Perhaps only want 20 megawatts. If you want Harare, lines to Harare to carry 1,000 megawatts, whatever. But now there's a company here, which is about 12 years old in California, which generates power where it is wanted. It's neither hydro, because if it is hydro, you must look for a river and produce it, generate it at the river and transmit it where you want it. This technology, they use lithium batteries. Those who went to school may know what it is. But for me, don't worry. I create an environment where this can be done. This is my job. If you want electricity in Chipinge, they get these boxes. They've shown me the boxes. Put them at Chipinge. And if they want 15 megawatts, it will produce 50 megawatts. If it turns out they want 50, they will produce 50. But on site, and so on and so on. So this is an innovation which I think is we are going to embrace. Because I believe that with my young team, who know ICT, but so Those are the things that we are doing. We would like to see that we modernize our country, we industrialize our country, we mechanize our country. We have set ourselves a goal. We have said, at the time when this dispensation came into office in November last year, the per capita income was around $900 that time. But within 8 months, we've moved to $1,100 something. $1,500. Within 8 months, we've moved from that to 1,500 per capita. And we're saying that our goal is to reach 3,500 per capita by 2030. And by then, it means we shall become a middle income economy. Upper middle income economy. Why remain in the diaspora? Why remain in the diaspora? Come home and contribute to this fantastic and exciting period of our history. In conclusion, I call upon you, my brothers and sisters in the diaspora, to contribute to your country with the skills you have acquired, with the connections you have made. Make use for them to help your mother country, to help your father country, Zimbabwe. Again, as we do so, please, wherever you are, preach unity, preach peace, preach love. That is the Zimbabwe we want. That's the Zimbabwe we want to build. I thank you.
The kind of things you should always be expecting from a visionary. And this is now time for the Zimbabwean diaspora, for the exchange of ideas and the exchange of conversation, for the conversation to start. I would like Your Excellency to believe that you probably, your office is going to be inundated by a number of CVs. People saying perhaps there could be some opportunity somewhere. It may not necessarily be cabinet, but it could be some opportunity somewhere. There is nothing wrong with you being so ambitious. Thank you very much. Now, what we would want is to have some questions to the President. No speech, no this elaborate speeches, but some questions to the President so that we can have interaction. And ministers. Not only to the minister and to the governor and so on and so forth. I think this so that we can have an elaborate conversation. There probably could be certain things that are you are considering is wanting, and at all these levels of interaction, I think you are going to be getting the most appropriate answers to whatever the questions you are going, whatever questions and challenges you are going to be raising. So if we could have some questions, we'll take 3 questions, and then the President and his team will take the opportunity to answer the questions. From what has been described as the most reliable portion of our society, from the ladies.
Is there a roaming mic?
Okay. Do you have the mic?
Shout.
If you would need to shout out, I think the room is sufficiently compact. To be able to. Thank you. So let's go ahead. Please.
Thank you. My name is Sompo. I only have one question. I'm confused, and I think most of the Zimbabweans are also confused on the relationship with China. How far their interaction with us, their assistance, how far do they go? And what measures are you going to take that we won't find ourselves in the same predicament as Zambia? That is very worrisome to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The second question, here.
Thank you. Your Excellency, my name is Rosalia, Dr. Rosalia Gotora. My question is related to a demographic that I followed you a lot, and I would like to congratulate you for your win. And I followed a lot, but there's a demographic that I think maybe is not being covered a lot. That is the children of Zimbabwe. I've worked in the US for 18 years with protective services for children, child welfare and protective services. And I know that when emotionally stable children increase in emotionally stable society. And I'm just wondering if there are any programs, any changes in the policies for children, because I follow a lot neglect, abuse, and there's all kinds of adversities that our children in Zimbabwe are facing. And sometimes there's no real support to it. They can go maybe as far as the police, and then I can't follow the story whether somebody was prosecuted for committing crimes or so. And also some children that are struggling with trauma. Are there any policies that we put in place, like to identify them in schools and provide them intervention programs that help support those children? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The third question. Hello, sir.
Thank you. I have a request from investors, so I have something I need to hand over to your team. Then on the other note, I want
Identify yourself so that.
Oh, sorry. My name is Danford Mnangagwa. So.
And you are based in?
I'm based here
In New York.
I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. Right.
So the investors I have are from Atlanta. So they gave me something to hand over to your team. But I wanted to thank you for everything you are doing, for everything you have said. You touched on something about the US, which is kind of peculiar. I mean, the US is kind of fun, but I wanted to tell you that in the US, there's a process. We have problems with sanctions. So if you want those sanctions lifted, these are the people who can make it happen. I mean, you don't have to fight with like Trump or anybody. You just need to work with us, because we are the people who can make those sanctions. It's a long process, but we can talk about it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I have a quick question.
Sorry?
I have a quick question.
No.
No question.
We're saying, unless Three at a time. We're saying 3 questions at a time. We will have time and space for conversation. Your Excellency, sir. The first question was on China, and the second question was.
Well, okay, the person is, you have some fear emanating from our relations with the People's Republic of China. And the fear is based on what you say has happened to Zambia. I don't know whether we know the same information about Zambia. Assuming that we do know the same and we know more than I do, I will reply relating to relations between Zimbabwe and China without Zambia. During the period of isolation, very few countries outside the West assisted us. Some of the notable countries which came to our assistance is China, India, Brazil, Russia, and Malaysia. And when things are good, you don't then forget your friends who stood with you during bad times. But you don't sell your country because somebody stood with you during bad times. All that which is necessary when you get any loans, investment, it must be structured. There are capital loans or investments in projects which can refinance themselves to pay the loans, not based on the fiscus. Currently, you may have heard that at the groundbreaking, I went to the People's Republic of China in April and requested for support for Wange 7 and 8 plants, costing about 1.2 billion. And the funds have come, we've begun drawing down on that amount. But the 600 megawatts we are going to get in 24 months' time will go into national grid and they'll pay themselves for the next 15 years. Nothing will come from finance. So I don't see any danger where you have a project which becomes productive in terms of revenue stream to pay for itself. We had also the Kariba South extension, where I think in January we commissioned it. It has put 300 megawatts into the grid, and we are paying because we are using electricity energy. The difference is that if we didn't have that, we would have been importing the 300 megawatts from South Africa and we're paying South Africa. But now we have the asset in Zimbabwe, and even when we finish paying the loan of 300 million or whatever, the asset remains with us and the continuity of electricity. So I don't see the danger there. But because you are younger, you may see more than I do. Come and advise me where I go wrong. I'm a very listening president.